What's up, FANVERSATION fans? Carrie Lane here. It is time to get down and dirty. We're going into the pit and exploring the world of Gachiakuta. Joining me now are the English voice actors for Rudo and Enjin. How did you find the voice? Bryson, you've played spunky, shonen, typical protagonist, but Rudo is a grumpy boy.
Yeah, I mentioned this in previous interviews, but essentially what I do whenever I try to come up with the voice for a character, I kind of think of it on a technical side of things, but also taking into account their direct like environment, how they were raised, and so for Rudo in particular, I noticed that like he kind of is really grungy, just down on himself, and has dealt with rejection his entire life, so he's kind of more keeps to himself. Unless he's angry or shouting out or anything like that, he tends to be a little bit more reserved and just introspective, if that's the best word to put it. And then also just like the environment around him, it's a little bit more dirty, grungy, and all that stuff. So that'll naturally get into your voice as you talk throughout your life, and then that kind of affects generally where I sit naturally with him. And yeah, I guess that's probably just the extent of was starting. And then I just kind of play with that as the baseline, depending on the scene, like depending on how intense he's getting, depending on how soft he's being, depending on who he's talking to, and all of that kind of stuff.
Right. And then, Christopher, you've
Hmm.
had a lot of really cool mentor figures. How did you find the voice for Enjin?
Yeah, he is a really cool character. And he is a little bit older than some of the rest of the cleaners that he's sort of charged with protecting and guiding. Um, and I think when we watched the audition, it was really a matter of trying to balance out what I saw of his character design that made him look so kind of cool and edgy, with some of the dialogue in the audition sides, which was actually a lot goofier and a lot sort of like playful. And so I think finding that dichotomy was really the crux of it. And so finding something that was believably like a super cool guy who also could be sort of impulsive and just say random stuff that occurs to him, funny stuff, pranking people, capitalizing on those moments. So just kind of a playfulness, a coolness, and yeah, fortunately, that combination seemed to work for me in booking the role. So I'm glad it worked out.
I'm glad you mentioned how the sides were a bit funny because, the overall tone and vibe of the show is really gritty, grimy, but very punk and hilarious as well. I'm curious how flexible is the recording process for both of you. And on top of that, the dialogue is extremely very modern, like relatable, kind of casual slang dialogue. So tell me about that in the booth process, whoever wants to jump in first.
Well, for me, I think it's really cool that they are allowing him to get away with doing so much like modern slang. I feel like it puts it in the language of the audience that will be watching it right now, and it feels more natural to us as Westerners to be able to incorporate like Western slang and all that different stuff because it just feels like we can play more with just the characters themselves. And I think James Cheek, who's the writer, the ADR writer for this series, has been doing a really good job of balancing keeping that original intent from the story while also throwing in little nuggets like that to keep it fun and entertaining for a younger audience for sure,
And
or a
Yeah,
Christopher,
newer
totally
audience. But
agree.
yeah, yeah.
We've had a couple moments when especially if the line hasn't quite fit or timed out, quite right, we've been able to play a little bit in the booth. And I think you know, our director Lee, who's doing such a good job of casting the show, but also doing such a good job of directing it and bringing so much life to the show with this cast, has allowed us to play a little bit in the booth with some of these phrases and especially some of the colloquialisms and the slang. And yeah, I personally think that only sort of leans into the humorous aspect of the show because it is such a serious show. It is the themes are so serious. And so I'm really, really glad that we're not just spending every episode, every beat, dwelling on that. I'm really glad that it's got those moments of levity because we really need it, and
Hmm.
the audience needs it too. So I'm glad that that's being brought out in the script.
Hmm.
What line or situation has surprised you the most or you thought was the most funny? Because there have definitely been humorous moments, like as we've been talking about, like the show's tonal shift is kind of wonderfully all over the place. So what line has been the most caught you off guard or situation that you thought was just blew your socks off was funny? Bryson.
There's that line that Jabber says right before he leaves in episode 7 or 8. It's after the Jabber fight, and he's leaving, and he just goes on this tirade, being like, "You're pretty good for a something like long string of insults," and that's an example of just like the words as written didn't really fit super well. So from what I heard, they just kind of went off and were going with the flow. And that one was really funny. I can't remember the exact wording because of how like long and and run on it is, but that's one of my favorites. I remember watching that episode back and I was like, wow, they really did that.
Nice. Christopher?
I loved that scene. I also a standout for me was the whole buildup of Zonka walking down the hallway, and
Yes.
then there's something
Yeah.
huge coming out of the door, and you're the audience is just kind of like, oh my gosh, they're under attack or there's some. But it was really like the buildup to this whole scene of Rudo discovering sweets for the first time. And I
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
that the story just pauses to allow us to enjoy this I mean, it was hilarious, and then it was very lovingly animated too. It's one of these moments where you go into the booth, and then by the time you leave, you've seen so much beautifully animated, delicious food that you're just starving,
Hmm.
because it just looks so good. But yeah, that one was a little out of left field, but I felt like in the best possible way. Like it was a beat that we needed in the story. Just like, let's just enjoy this new world that we're in and have fun. That was great.
Hmm.
Are there any fun behind the scenes stories you haven't had a chance to tell yet?
Hmm.
Behind the scenes.
I guess just on a general sense, every now and then songs will pop up in the show that are just like
Mm-hmm.
too good not to dance to. So,
Mm.
Sure.
like when they first go to Canvas Town, I remember the music would start playing and they have that like beat playing in the background when they drive up to the city. And literally, I didn't even have a line. I think I had like a quick reaction, like a and then literally we just sat there for like the next 30, 45 seconds just jamming to the to the music, me, Lee, and the engineer as well.
The music of this show is really, really good, and it's all over the place. Like there's, one of the ones we did recently was there was like a ska sounding song in the background. And like I grew up in the 80s and
Yeah.
90s, so I'm like, oh my gosh, they're bringing ska back in this. And I think it was the engineer. There was an engineer that was substituting in that was like, "What is ska?" And I was like, "Hold on, hold on, hold on.
Oh,
We gotta
yeah.
we gotta stop. Let's
They don't know
just we gotta
ska?
talk about ska." And that was fun. I mean, there's all kinds of little moments like just like that with this show because it does tend to kind of like you said, it's got a lot of different tones.
Hmm.
It's all over the road. There's an enormous amount of fun graffiti. Like sometimes it'll pan past a scene and we'll kind of just stop and like look at it and analyze it a little bit because I firmly believe that this graffiti is actually telling kind of a story within the story,
Ooh.
because they have put such an emphasis on the graffiti aspect of it, and they keep talking about it. They keep bringing it back. The creator keeps talking about it, and so it's fun to pay attention to that stuff. You feel like maybe someday down the road we're gonna go, oh, that was actually foreshadowed in the graffiti that showed
Hmm.
up, in da 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 da. So it's been kind of a fun little like Where's Waldo aspect as well.
Yeah, and another artistic avenue that's really fun and explored is their mask that they have. What kind of mask would you want or do you think you would get? Because it is kind of the interesting, you don't really get to choose what it is within this world, but it sure is
Hmm.
reflective of one's personality. So what do you think you would get?
A full face
Uh,
mask.
a
Hmm.
full face. I think mine would probably just be like a dog. I'm a dog person for sure. And it would have like dog-like features. I don't know if like any of the faces have had like specific animals or things in mind, but I think it would have just like dog-like characteristics and stuff. I think it'd be
Sure.
fun.
Well, Rudo's is
Hmm.
kind of like angry tiger, like wild, big
Yeah,
cat
Hmm.
a
generically is
little
kind of
bit,
what it
yeah.
looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you have a particular dog in mind or just general dog?
I'm thinking Probably like a retriever or something like that.
Love it. All
Yeah.
right. Christopher, what about you?
Mine is less a statement about like me as a person and more a statement of how sick I am of the summer right now and how desperate I am for cold weather. So I would just love to have a full face that has just like fans on all the corners and it's just constantly
Yeah.
blowing air on me. Um,
Yeah.
that's not a deep statement about who I am, unfortunately. But it's just that's what I'd love to have.
You are a person who appreciates comfort.
Indeed.
Hmm.
There we go.
Indeed. Yes.
Speaking of masks, what do you think your character would wear for Halloween?
Ooh,
Ooh.
that's a good one. You brought some fun questions. I like these.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Ah.
I
I
could
mean,
see.
his
Hmm?
Umbreaker is very Umbrella-esque, and so wouldn't it be fun if Enjin did like leaned into that? And I'm a big
Hmm.
Batman fan, so it'd be super fun to do like Enjin as the Penguin or something. That would be cool.
Hmm.
I saw that one. I'm like,
Uh,
ooh, yeah, yep.
Trying to think. He's already got the big gloves, and so maybe he would dress up like a Kingdom Hearts character with big gloves
Ooh,
and
Oh,
boots
I
and
could see
shoes and
that.
stuff. That'd be fun. That'd be cool. Rudo
yes.
with a Keyblade would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Love that. And then last one, what do you think your vital instrument would be? I mean, we did mass relating to your personality, but I'm also curious
Hmm.
on your vital instrument. Like, what's something that's important to you?
I collect a lot of like old video games, but I still hold on to some of the video games that I had growing up. And one that
Mhm.
I always like end up finding on my shelf and like keeping track of is this I have a copy of Mega Man Battle Network 2 where the sticker on the front has been like it's gone entirely. There's just a Sharpie that says the name of the game on it because it's been through hell and but it's still on my shelf and if anybody asks what it is, I'm like, read the Sharpie. And I don't know how that would actuate into like a particular like vital instrument. Maybe it's something more casual where I can like make it like play whatever game I want on it or something like that. That'd be cool. It doesn't have to be a weapon. I know not all the vital instruments
True,
are weapons, so
true. Christopher, what about you?
I'm a drummer, so I spent,
Ooh, okay.
my
Hmm.
20s kind of just in bands, touring around and stuff and cutting records and we have a drum set up in our house here, and my son is a drummer, so there's kind of always drumming going on. And still have from they were kind of like my first pair of sticks. They're a mess, but I still have them, and so I'd love to use those. I think if I had to choose a power for them, though, what I'd really like to be able to do is just like when I pick them up, if I start playing them, like a kit just appears and I can
Mm,
just sit down
hmm.
and start playing anywhere, but no one else can hear it except for me. So it
Mhm.
doesn't have to disturb everyone around me, and I don't
And
have
you
to
can go
lug it
wild.
around. I just don't want to have to carry drums around, and
But
so
but they still see you air drumming. And you're
they
just
see me
like,
air
that guy's
drumming, yeah,
going to
and they're just like,
town.
This guy, what is this guy doing?"
And doing the best like yoga chair pose possible, because then maybe they
Absolutely,
don't even see the chair.
yeah. It's all just in my mind. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then actually last wrapping it up, what would you like to tell the fans?
Look forward to more mysteries, more intrigue. Me and Waycamp here, we've talked about how we're both caught up on the manga right now, and there's more amazing moments to come, and I won't spoil them, but yeah, be on the lookout. They're really great.
And don't feel alone if you have had trouble pronouncing the name of this show, because I run into people all the time that are like, I love the show. How do you pronounce it? And so talk to your friends that are fans, and that'll be a fun way for you guys to connect and enjoy being a fan of the show, is like deciding how this show is actually pronounced.
I'm a fan of the affectionate, just saying gotchi. Sound cute. I'm
Gotcha.
like, we're just
Yeah.
shortening that conversation. We're going into it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much and looking forward to seeing the rest of the series.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this was great.
You can check Gachiakuta out over on Crunchyroll. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Carrie Lane with FANVERSATION.